Hey everyone, thanks for coming. Just be careful when you're leaning on the pieces. It's not fragile, but yeah, everything is hanging from the top under tension, which is part of what the show is about. So my history is long, but printmaking, I've done, like you said, a long path to get here. And 13 years ago, rope suddenly became this material that started to speak to me via jewelry and wearable work. Um, Took me completely by surprise, and I can still remember the first box that I bought because it's like, okay, now I have to build a collection for the show. I've never made jewelry. I don't know what to do with this rope other than just kind of like stick it over my head. So I bought a box of like a couple 100 feet of rope, and it just smelled so good when I opened it up. It was this cotton rope smell. So that, was like this initial, you got to really love your material, I think is a big part of longevity. So I fell in love with the rope and then started to apply color to it. I'm not like a trained fiber artist or dyer, but I was spray painting. The name of my brand is Neon Zinn, Zinn. So Howard Zinn, the writer, historian, activist. So I was spray painting some of his text on my stuff. It was very stinky, very messy. And then I just had to kind of like figure out dyeing and color. And you'll see the piece on the wall over here is a nice contrast to this room where I just decided to let the rope speak for itself, and let the figures in the room kind of become one thing. Um, but the color is always like primary to me, and the rope continues to speak to me. So when Dennis came around, my wearable work had started to get bigger. It started to get down to the floor. It was more intricate. But I'm a big believer in just like simple techniques. You don't have to get fancy. You don't need a lot of equipment. I literally have an awl, which is like a sharp, pointy thing with a wooden ball on it, a couple scissors, and that's basically it. That's been a career of 13 years making wearable work. So he came along, and it was a really nice moment because I'd started to think about my work back in spaces, not just like draping on the body and how to make that work. Um, so the piece that Kristen's wearing is like late stage Neon Zen, where I really started to explore what rope could do in three-dimensional ways. And that, just as I continued to push and push and push, which I'd done for 13 years, it just made more and more sense to think of rope as something that could come off the body and be vertical on its own. And that's where like this kind of sense of tension and repetition, things that you'll see in this show, which was made specifically for Galveston for this space. So I'm really appreciative to have that opportunity. Artists don't always get that. They kind of have to make their own spaces. I've done that for a long time and had two people show up to something. So it's really fun to have you all here and kind of be in the middle of what has become, it's not sculptural, it's like one feeling. I think I think of it musically, almost like notationally, like you're in a visual representation of a melody or something that's repetitive. I listen to a lot of music when I'm making these, so the music comes into it. And then, these are individual pieces tied together. So I wanted them, once they enveloped you, to start to see new patterns emerge that wouldn't be just there with one single piece. So that was a big part of the show. And then the piece on the wall that's in the stairwell was just my chance to really go wild and show what I can do with color and really intricate shapes, on a big, larger scale. So yeah, it's kind of a new stage for me, and it's really exciting to have you up in here and feeling it. So if you have any questions, please yeah, ask away. It's about 3,000 feet of rope total in the whole show. So I kept having to buy those nice smelling boxes of rope. I thought I was done, and then I'd be like, all right, another 1,000. Like, it's not quite there yet. Each one is quite a lot of intricate overlapping. They do repeat, but some of these parts here, are very complex, and to make them happen over and over again was a really interesting mental way of engaging with my work, because there was a lot of repetition and monotony and physical pain, labor. They're all made horizontally on a floor, so I'm literally hunched over these pieces on my knees. You don't see that in the final, but it really is a part of how this work comes to be. And then that got me thinking a lot about just all kinds of things when you're an artist working on your own in a studio. So I thought a lot about permeability and the skin and borders, and a lot of, it's not politically explicitly, but just a sense of passing through something that might seem insubstantial, or something, a border that still you can put your hand through. And to me, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So you kind of leave it at that. They all literally start here, and then this is the first connection there. So you make this circle, and then you can follow it. You go there, and then you come down, and you do a bunch of stuff, and then each of these connections, that's hundreds of feet of rope. That's 2 long lengths of rope. So just imagine 2 hundreds of feet of rope. So there's a top and a bottom to it, 2 V's. But it's basically hand die. I double it over, figure out where the middle is, and then just die until I'm at the end, which is, to me, one of the funnest days. It takes like a whole day of heating up dye pots. But just to play with the color, because I know when I come back to this piece, the color is going to speak to me, and that kind of ends up defining the shapes. And as I'm going along, it really helps me. These were challenging because there was no color, so it was way much more of a meditation and a way different focus to get through 17 of these. But yeah, the continuousness in these is, like she said, part of what gives it that mirrored effect. And then I wanted them to be able to be joined. So dimensionally, the dimensions unknown is really part of, like, where are they going to go? Where do they end? Where's the beginning and end? And the cantilevering out was really important too, which I'm really into that stuff, the technical side of art making. And in the fashion world and design, there's a lot of figuring out a clasp or figuring out tiny little details that will just make a piece work better and look better on a person. So I take a lot of time. Yeah, it's an arm length, 16 arm lengths. And you write it down so you know. Well, actually, each piece is basically this. Yeah, I do write some things down. I don't write down my color. Yeah, I'm pretty good intuitively with the color. I wanted them to be, in the 9-foot range, just so they had, when you come up into the space. Plus, we painted the room blue, and a very specific blue. I wanted there to be a hopeful, because, like Barry, we all, as artists, are extra sensitive to stuff. So with this work, I wanted there to be a sense of hope and uplifting. So the blue, I felt, was like kind of coming up into the air, and this really nice airy feeling. So that was a really big component of the show too. Portals. I try not to get. I think as an artist, when you're a younger artist, it's easy to be really try to be more literal and try to, I always was inserting so much meaning into my stuff that it clouded the work a lot of times, So I think as I've gotten older and matured as an artist, meaning is something that you bring to it. I don't necessarily. And I really, when I'm making work that I think is strong, I can tell when I'm trying to be tricky with my moves, and I'll take a step back when I'm just, it's almost like a guitarist just doing a riff. I've done it long enough. I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm just riffing right now, and with the rope, and I need to like step back from that and then reapproach it and come at it in more of an honest. To me, it feels more honest to not be inserting something as literal into it. So, and then the piece that's folded over as an art, it's always fun. I haven't done a gallery show in quite a while. I've just been so involved in wearable work and trying to get, work mailed to commercial shows or whatever. So it's been fun to just work in a space. And that was very last minute, but I think it really reminds me of just the malleability of the material, because everything is so stretched and tense that was just like this one nice little break, and it provides a little nice window to the hall. So things like that for me as an artist are always like fun, unexpected. That was not planned, but I think it helps because this space is complex. So just trying to figure out how to really make this feel unified from a distance, just based off of photos and measurements and stuff. So yeah, thanks to Bill down there for really helping out, and Dennis. We had a fun couple days, just like having it. It was a fun week. Come into like being. Yeah.